Remember how you loved the stories at bedtime about princesses and fairy godmothers? Well, you may want to hold on tighter to your teddy bear and keep that nightlight on, because these are not your mother's bedtime stories. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. Today we have a special guest. You've met two of my other siblings, Nancy and Debbie, and here we have the eldest of our siblings, Bruce, my brother Bruce, and he's got some stories that hopefully will give you a little fright, but and then the usual list of suspects here. So we've got, go ahead, you girls.
Colleen's here.
Hi, it's Chrissy.
Hi, Sherry's here.
Sherry's at the park.
Sherry's at the park. So.
Taking podcasting to a whole new level.
Yeah, I am.
Yep. You can hear the playground chatter.
No creepy happenings at the park right now. It's pretty lively.
You're not at the cemetery park, right?
No, not at the cemetery park. That one, definitely not this crowded.
And I'm the mom, Karen. You guys been doing anything exciting? Chrissy just got back from vacation. That's why we've missed a couple weeks in our podcast. But
yes, if you can,
you gotta have some time away.
You gotta have some time away, especially if you can have a chance to get to Tahiti and Bora Bora. I highly recommend it. It was amazing. All the pictures that you ever see definitely don't even do it justice. It's just so magical. You walk around, you're like, is this really real? But it's interesting from a paranormal perspective. The tiki image is very important to their culture and their religion. But if you ever look at the tiki, it really looks like an alien. And so there's all these conspiracies. I mean, if you go into that realm, that maybe the ancient Polynesians had help from some sort of alien beings, or you could just say that maybe that was the easiest thing for them to carve. And the fact that they had big heads and little bodies and little tiny slitty eyes was just a coincidence or not. But we brought back Grams into tikis. And so we brought back a little stone tiki guy that we bought from the marketplace there in Papeiti. And he's sitting there, doesn't have any curses to him that we know of so far. So that's good. But yes, Tahiti is magical.
It's not like that episode of the Brady Bunch or something. Didn't they find a little...
Yeah, Greg, poor Greg. He like wiped out in the surfing competition or whatever because he was wearing the medallion. That was taboo.
Yeah, creepy. And Colleen's been busy shoveling snow. So.
Yeah, our winter got started late and it's just hanging on. I've got a foot of snow yesterday, so that was no fun, but at least it happened on a Saturday, so we didn't have to go anywhere except shovel.
Okay, Bruce. Oh. So Bruce has had some interesting experiences.
Well, yeah, live as many years as I do. I'm the old man of the bunch. And really, the house we lived in really wasn't that old. I mean, it had a lot of history that we didn't know about because the house was built the same year I was born, 49.
Mm-hmm. 1840.
That's what working out does for you. But no, really, I never had a lot of things happen out there. I mean, there's the things that go bump in the night, the unseen things. Was that something or what? I don't know. Because back then, you really didn't delve that much into what the paranormal was. You just was that a spook or a ghost or anything like that? Mostly the unseen or the unknown is what gives you the frights. And the biggest thing I can think of from inside the house that happened to me physically was taking a shower. Everybody was on vacation. I had to stay home and do the chores. I think I was 15, 16 years old or something like that. I was having a hard day. We fed the hogs and cattle and came back in, hot day. And my uncle was supposed to come over and check on me occasionally, see if I needed help or if I was okay. But I was taking a shower. one evening I came in just before I was going to go up and get something to eat. At the end of my shower, I would always stick my washcloth up. It's an open shower down in the basement. I mean, it was just, there was no curtain or anything like that around it even. It's just a pipe that come out with a faucet head on it and got hot water. So I would shove it up. It wasn't that far above my head, so I could get my washcloth nice and hot, and I would drape it over my face and just let the shower pound on my back. So I was doing that and just kind of relaxing, having that, and something came up or something, I don't know, somehow, let's put it that way. My eyes got poked, both eyes, like someone took the Three Stooges type of poke into my eyes through that washcloth. And I thought it was my uncle, just snuck up on me and did that. So I tore the washcloth off and was ready to say, Leroy. Nobody was there. And of course, right away, the short hairs all stand up like, what was that? And I shut the shower off, and I kind of grabbed the towel and walked around the house going, anybody here? And there's no one there. Normally, I always tried to explain everything. I always had kind of a scientific approach, but there was no explanation for that. So I have no idea what caused that depression in those eyes.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to come on, because I think this story was brought up with Nancy and Debbie. And for me, I always thought, well, maybe because if you're laying there and like the water, if you get a few drops that are more powerful than others, but that wasn't the case. You actually were leaning forward and not backward into the water.
No, I had my head back. The shower was on my back, but I was facing away from the shower.
Okay.
And I just draped the cloth over my back.
Okay.
And so the water was not hitting that washcloth. So I don't know what that was. It was one of those mysteries that it's a good story now to tell. But back then, I don't know. It just kind of creeped me. I just could not answer it. Of course, I had to tell everybody about it. But other than that, in that house, I didn't really. And we did all the things. We had the Ouija boards, and we do the seances and stuff. And I'm surprised we didn't trigger something. But I don't know. There's just, everybody has a couple of stories of bump in the night type of things around there. But I don't know if there's really any hauntings or anything like that in that house. But just things that, I don't know, no explanation for, I guess.
Right. As I remember, like Nancy saying that she had seen like shadows sometimes, just out of the corner of her eye. She was sitting at the kitchen table and she said it looked like somebody went from like the hallway into the living room or something, like just a quick shadow. And she says, I'm home by myself. And so what else is walking around?
Everybody has that experience, though, don't they? All of a sudden you think you've caught movement inside of your vision and you look and there's nothing there. Kind of makes you wonder if there is something that, I don't know, maybe there's a little vision area, that a spectrum or something like that isn't visible head on, that you may catch a little bit out of this corner of your eye. I don't know.
Well, Nancy had when she was home alone, she had actually thought she had heard people like coming into the house. I remember when she was telling that story.
Well, she saw headlights like coming up the driveway.
Was actual people.
Yeah, so we went into the true crime realm with that one. That was scary, that somebody came in, walked around, and then left.
Wow. The other thing that happened to me out in that area, it was the old cemetery. Has everybody been to the old cemetery that was north of the farm out there?
Yep.
That overgrown thing.
Yeah. We did that excursion, Halloween party.
The cemetery was so old that there's depressions in the ground where actual caskets have caved in. They've sat there for so long. So I used to go coon hunt. It was an October night, really dark, kind of cool. I decided to go coon hunting just to take Ajax back for a walk. So we took him back there, and he'd always just leave. Once we get back to the woods, I would just let him go, and he would take off and try to find a scent or a trail to get on. And he was working his way toward the west, because I went in directly behind the farm to the north. I could hear him over there howling. So I thought, oh, he's got something up a tree. So I started in that direction. And I usually don't walk with a flashlight, because if he sees me coming, he'll think I see something else and he'll come to me. He'll leave the trail. So I walked over and I started thinking, oh, don't let this be in that cemetery. Because I had 15, 16 years old again. I thought, still not really comfortable going in here. Just got a cemetery. Nobody wants to be in there at night. So I come to the fence, and I could hear him in there. He was carrying on. So he had something. I wasn't sure what it was. So I thought, so I stepped over the fence, and the fence was like it was a good fence at one time, but it was down, so it was easy to step over. And I kind of went in there, and I was calling to him because he kind of just had soft growls after that. So I was walking over there, and I'm kind of looking for him. I said, again, I didn't use my flashlight. I could just see enough where I was just kind of working my way into the cemetery. I called to him again. No response. He even stopped growling. So walking up a little farther, thinking I could see him, but I didn't hear anything. Then I heard him bark farther away. So I thought, oh, he's gone. He left here. And that's good enough for me. I'm getting out of here because I thought I heard something. And I turned and just started not running, but a hurried pace out there. And something tugged the hoodie of my sweatshirt and just almost pulled me backwards. And of course, just let out. I don't know if I made a sound or not. I can't remember, but I took off, and
I think you should.
And I kind of cut around this one evergreen, a short evergreen there, and a white thing was right in front of me, and bang! I ran right into it so hard, and it knocked me backwards. Of course, it was just one of those white stone, like a monument type of headstone. And there's something on the top of it. I knocked it off. I hit it so hard. I got up, and I went over to the fence and climbed over the fence and just left there. Glad to get out of there. So the next day I thought, what grabbed me by the back of the neck? Got to be a tree branch. Right away. I'm trying to figure out what it was. So I thought, I know where I crossed the fence. So I went back the next day. I got to fix that stone anyway. I went to the spot where I crossed the fence, walked in, pretty much. And I'm walking down that trail that I come walking back out on. And I thought, there is no branches anywhere on that trail. So what grabbed me by the back of that hoodie?
Right, with like enough force to pull you back too. Because sometimes if you get like, caught a little bit, you can kind of pull, but to like pull you where you're actually
it stopped my stride. Let's put it that way. I was, like I said, moving on. Something like if a branch or something like that would grab you, it'd pull just enough where it'd hold you up just a step. And there was nothing there. I said it was all evergreen trees, and there's really no grabbing branches on evergreens anyway. And there's nothing even that close to it. And I got to the stone, and it was tilted just a little bit, and there's like a cap that went on it, so I picked that up and set it back on again. I just got out of there again, but I was in that cemetery numerous times. We would have seances in there, and I'm surprised we didn't really raise something.
Jeez, I never heard about those.
Yeah, I didn't hear about those either.
Seances? Yeah. You guys tried to conjure stuff in the cemetery?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
That was pretty gutsy back then. Of course, me and my buddies, we'd have our girlfriends with us. I got them a little bit excited. But we would have that.
No beer involved.
No, actually there was. But other than that, really, other than things that just go bump in the night, you just you hear something and you're like, what was that? Other than that, I really never had any experiences like that out there.
I'm glad you're on, Bruce, because there's one story. Jenny alluded to it a little bit when she came on. And I don't know if it happened at the farm or at one of your houses where it was almost like a doppelganger, where Jenny was on the bed.
It was at the farm.
Yeah.
It was at the farm.
That was at the farm where it was a little girl in blue pajamas, but then Jenny was wearing pink pajamas.
Yeah. Sat up and what the heck is down here? I said, Jenny, Vicky was there. I said, how come Jenny's up? She was, where's Jenny? And I looked like, well, I don't know. She was right in here. I forgot about that. And I said, this little girl had blue pajamas on or something. I can't even really recall now. I know that you kind of refreshed me on that. I don't know.
So you saw a little girl in the doorway?
No, it's at the foot of the bed.
Oh, at the foot of the bed? With blue pajamas.
Right.
But then Jenny went to bed in pink pajamas.
Yeah. That's what I said.
So it wasn't Jenny.
Something like, this little girl had different color pajamas on. I can't really recall now what it was, but Vicky said, no, this is what she went to bed in. Well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. and solid enough to see color. So I mean, it was actually not a ghost figure. You thought it was Jenny. It looked like a little girl.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah, that was at the farm.
Right. Wasn't just white or anything. It had color. Right.
I think Mom and Dad, I think, were out in Arizona, and we went out there just to spend the night at the farm. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Now, nothing ever happened to you, Bruce, when you were staying with Dad when we took our turns out there. Nothing ever happened to you at night,
No.
did it? Like it happened to Debbie and Nancy and I?
No, I don't think. I can't recall anything.
So.
And I'm a very light sleeper, so actually I do recall once in a while when I'd be sitting out there and I'd get a whiff of a scent, like a perfume. And I thought that was kind of strange. I kind of forgot about that.
She was around.
And Bruce, you lived in a couple of really neat old homes yourself too, but you guys never had really anything out of the ordinary happen, like that one home that had like the little room above the barn that we used to have sleepovers in, and that was a neat old house.
There's a guy that died in that house too. Actually, he died of appendicitis. And it's funny because I had it and it went undiagnosed. If it would have went undiagnosed, I would have probably been or not here today. Let's put it that way. And I could be haunting everybody here and creating more stories.
Yeah, Bruce would do that.
If I could, I would make a visit.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you would. So if Bruce's passes, man, I'm getting The Exorcist. So.
It's funny you mentioned that because I remember a story that Grandma told. It was after Grandpa died. Actually, years after Grandpa died, she told me I've never told this to anybody. She told me a story. Remember when Burley had cancer? And she was having kind of a rough time of it. Well, Grandma said that her and Grandpa were sleeping, and he sat straight up in bed, and he said, "Lord," he says, "don't take Burley. She's young. She has a life, and she's doing good. Take me. I'm old." And he just laid back down again. Burley completely cured of cancer, and he was dead a month later.
Okay, that just gave me the chills completely.
He had a major heart attack, and yep, he was gone.
I remember going in there that night. 63, I think he was. He died in 61. So I remember we were supposed to go in and visit him that night. And I don't know if he had some type of a knowledge of what was going on or not. But Grandma says, "No, Grandpa's not feeling well." I went back into that bedroom and I said, "Are you not feeling good, Grandpa?" And he goes, "No." He says, "I'm not. But I'm going to be okay." I don't know. Did he know something? And he was dead that night. Within hours of after I saw him. But that's the strangest thing strange. I mean, if you want to believe in something spiritual, I suppose that would be a good thing to believe in. Spirits are always bad. I mean, if you believe in God, you got to believe in spirits. So,
good or bad, right?
So. And Burley is still
cancer free.
And well, she's lived a long, full life.
Is 92. So yeah, she was cured of cancer and never came back. So I guess you can bargain, I guess.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Yeah, these are just nice little baby stories.
But they're good ones, they're just little, kind of make you like think a minute. It's like, what was that in the cemetery? And it's like, boy, you had the guts to go into the cemetery at night anyway. And it's like, geez, there's no way I used to. So,
well, speaking of cemeteries, was Deuce's story in a cemetery? We have this episode will be a Deuce and Bruce episode. So we have Deuce. Deuce has a story also. Well, thanks for coming on and telling your side of the story.
I thought I'd better, vindicate myself. So,
there you go.
There's other stories.
The record is set straight.
I wish I could thought of more of them, but it was so young remember Grandpa Walt's house? If there was any stories to be told, that was an old house. And the last couple of years he lived there, he was seeing people, talking to them. But of course, it's probably dementia, but he would see them. I mean, you would go to sit in a chair. You go, no, don't sit there. There's somebody there.
Jeez. Oh yeah.
Totally
Oh
creeped
my
me out.
goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it totally creeped me out. I'd
Yeah,
give him
it's
a
like,
look
well, who
like,
is it?
okay.
He would take a candy
Who
tray.
is it? Well, can't you
Yeah,
see him?
the
It's
little
that little
people.
man, right?
He would take a
And I'm
candy
like,
tray off and
no,
pass it
there are
around.
little people running around, and I'm like,
Oh geez.
Yeah.
I know. It was pretty creepy. Pretty creepy, but it was, but they said he was, in stages of dementia and stuff. So whether, he was seeing him, but
Yeah, he'd be talking to him.
Yeah, there used to be some creepy things. I think Mom even said growing up in that house that she could, she says, I heard somebody, I was the only one home and I could hear somebody walking up the steps, going upstairs. And she says, I looked out
And
there.
I would have been pretty young, but going up that stairs in the back of the dining area there that went up to the actual upstairs, I would always have a sense of dread going up them steps. It's the only time I've ever really felt that. I would always have a sense of dread, and nothing ever really scared me.
Right. I would hang on to the railing for dear life, because I always felt like somebody was behind me that was going to like push me or something, so I would hang on to the railings. It's like, geez, I don't want to,
They were
because they're
steep.
kind of
There were
rickety,
steep stairs
narrow
too.
steps. And yeah, they were steep. Yeah. So kind of creeped me out, but I was like, I remember that. I was like, I always used to hang on to dear life, and they're going, Karen, you're so slow. And I'm like, well, I'm hanging on here. I don't want to get pushed down the
I was
steps.
always spooked out about that house. It was always kind of creeped me out going up them steps.
All right. Well, Bruce, thank you again so much. And
good to see you, Bruce.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Yep. Thank you,
Nice
Bruce.
seeing everybody.
It's
yeah.
good to see you, Bruce.
No problem.
all right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. After our brief pause, we have another special guest today. It's my son Deuce. Just to explain the name, his real name is Gilbert. He was named after my husband's father, so he's a second. But he inherited the nickname Deuce, which suits him. And my daughter, whose name is Ella, she always thinks that he has the cool name. Deuce, I don't know how you feel about that.
I definitely think I have the cool name, and I think I'm definitely more deserving of it. I just it fits me better, I feel like.
I don't picture Ella as a deuce, so I think that works okay.
Right, exactly. I think so too.
So this kind of piggybacks onto our story from earlier, where Bruce was talking about camping out in creepy places. So this actually happened to Deuce when he was camping out in a creepy place. And if you want to give some background, Deuce.
So yeah, I mean every year like the AP US history teacher always takes the AP class to Gettysburg, or at least some site around there. They just explore different battlefields while our teacher completely immerses himself in the experience. I remember him he set up this tarp tent compared to everybody else who had their modern tents, and he didn't use any technology whatsoever when we were on the trip. The only light he had during night was just through a candle. Yeah, and he would dress up in these Confederate and Union uniforms that they actually wore in battle the whole time, that he never washed because he wanted to make sure it was historically accurate, which was funny. It was really funny. And I mean, I remember it being so hot that weekend, so I couldn't imagine how terrible he smelled. But yeah, so we were on, I forget the name of the campground, but it used to be a former artillery base. They would keep a lot of the just the artillery rounds and the things that they use for there. But I never really thought that it would be that haunted. I had heard previously that Gettysburg was a big hot spot for hauntings, just because of such a tragic war and just all the turmoil that had gone on during that battle. So I knew that it was div in certain areas, but I didn't think that we were really going to get too much from where just we were on the camp, because it didn't seem like there was like a lot of battles that went on there, even though there were like some like sites where there were battles. Yeah, no, it was a really good trip. It was pretty fun. Our last night there, we decided to have a fire because they had like a firewood vending machine on the campground. So we figured that we'd like spot it, like chip in a couple bucks and like get like a bundle of firewood. So
I'll take 2 small packs, 2 little mini
yeah,
kindlings.
right, exactly.
I'm gonna say, did they get
Right.
stuck in there and you had to like bang on the?
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, it was so weird.
Give me
It
my
was so weird because it
firewood.
was just like off the wall of this house, and like all you had to do is you just like put this money in, and then all of a sudden it just like dropped down in this tray. And we were just like, oh, that's weird, you know. And then I was like, I figured I could try and get some chips out of it too. We got the firewood, but I mean, we had like nothing to make a fire with. So we had like a kid on our in our class. He was like definitely more of just like a weirder character, you know. He was like very like to himself, but he was like hugely experienced in like nature survival. And I remember it was our last night, so it was pouring rain like during the night. So like we put an umbrella over him, and we like tried to have him like start this fire by hand, and it took forever. And this poor kid, he like, cuz like all he was getting is just smoke from the fire.
Why didn't you borrow your teacher's candle?
Yeah, he was already asleep.
Oh.
So we finally were able to get the fire going, and then the rain stopped, and it was like a really good night. We were like all hanging out. Like a lot of us had already gone to bed, and it was just like his name was Dennis, and there was like another person with us at the time, and it was just the three of us before we were all planning to go to bed. We like started talking about kind of like the history of like ghost encounters there. So like we thought it would be spooky if we like just like started like walking around in the woods, you know, just why not? Just to see like if like any we could see anything or like hear anything. And it was mostly like quiet, you know. I mean, like we kept like kind of like pulling jokes on each other for a little bit, but then like later as we like got into the night, like we like kept like hearing like distant like branches like snapping. And I mean like I like it could have like been like an animal or something, but like they started to happen more often throughout the night, you know. And then like they started just like sounding more louder and not really more like an animal, or if like it's like a boot was stomping on like a branch or something. So that like started to get us like a little like creeped out, and you know. And then we were walking by like an old horse stable that was around the camp, and then we heard like a really close like branch snap, and then we like took off running because we didn't want to like stick around and see whatever it was, whether it was an animal or not. It just sounded like something like a big figure. So we then run back to the camp where the fire was still going, and we're kind of just like all like weary and like just like kind of like talking about what just happened, you know. Like then the noises like kept happening, and like it sounded like there were like multiple people basically, like because you would like hear one from like one area, and then you would hear a completely other noise in another area. We thought we were like getting like surrounded, you know, which was like kind of creeping us out. And this kid who had like started the fire, Dennis, I had never really seen him like ever really like shaken up at all. Like he always like came off as like a really like confident like guy when it like came to like stuff, and he seemed like very skeptical about ghosts in general. But then this time he was like like pretty like scared about it, you know. And I was like, and when I like saw him getting scared, I was like, oh, like this is real, you know. Like I started getting nervous. And then we're like we heard another noise, and we looked over like towards like down like in this like little like grove by where like this river was. And all of a sudden like we're looking down there because we just like heard like another branch snapping. We look down, and then we like see this like small white orb that like floats, that comes out of like where normally like the river would be. And it like comes out of a tree. It like does like a swoop down towards the ground, and then it like disappears into like the other side of another line of trees. And then I like turned to him and I was like, "Yo, Des, did you see that?" And he was like, "Dude, we got to get out of here, bro." Like I just saw that too, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so scary." And we were like, "Oh, dude, like this is real. Like, this is real, dude." And he was like showing me his hands. His like hands were like really shaking. The other person I was with us at the time, like she didn't see it, and she like kept thinking that we were like pulling a prank on her. But there was like there's no way for us to really explain it, you know. And like we just like kept telling. I was like, "Dude, you actually saw that, right?" Because I thought like maybe like he was pranking me and I was just seeing things, you know, but he was like, "No, dude, like I actually saw that, you know." And it was just a really scary moment. And honestly, it couldn't have been better to have it be on like your last night of the trip. So I was like, I went and going to bed like later that night, I got like so scared because we kept hearing like the branches snapping too. And like I could hear him like go by like the other like tents that were like around in our like tent village that we had. And I was like, oh geez, like it took me a little bit to fall asleep that night for sure.
And that's one of the things we talk about too is, you know, the confirmation from somebody else seeing the same thing you saw. So you said, "Did you see that?" "Yeah, I saw that." I mean, just so, you know, your mind's not playing tricks on you, that something was actually there and you both saw it. And I mean, that's just, and so when you're, question for you about the branches snapping, did it sound just like one thing or did it sound maybe like multiple people potentially?
So it like first started out of just like one like single like step almost. Like I like kept like trying to like think about like how like the branches were snapping to like whether to like to debunk them, whether it just be like an animal or like just stepping on them, or rather if it was like an actual like ghost or anything. So but they started out as like defined like just like one simple step, like it was like someone like slowly trying to like creep up on us, you know, where they're like where they don't want to get caught or have their cover blown. So then it started out as just like one like step of on like a branch, you know, and then like that's what kind of like freaked us out. And then we'd hear like another series of one where it'd be like 1, 2, you know, like where like people are taking like individual steps. And that's when we like started taking off, is like when like it sounded like more like people were like like walking more towards us. And then it started to happen like all over the place in different areas.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gettysburg is like one of the most haunted places in the US. I mean, there's so many reports of like people hearing battle sounds. But the one thing I think of, do you guys remember when we were in Gettysburg and we took that ghost tour at downtown?
Yes.
Nothing, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you never expect to have anything really happen on a ghost tour. I mean, they're all just more of like a, you know, interesting thing. And it was really cool to walk around at night and be told these stories. But yeah, I think the creepiest part, and man, that the poor guy who was the victim, but we were standing in front of this house and there were all these different tall trees. And I can't remember if the guide had like a nice, you know, like poignant story, or it was like a part of a story where it was like particularly scary when all of a sudden this cat jumped out of the tree and jumped onto this dude in the tour. And he just freaked out. I'm like, can you imagine? You're already like tense. And then, and like the chances of a cat, you know, cats don't typically like jump out of trees on people, you know, and why he targeted this guy. And, oh my gosh. Like everybody in that tour, we were all just like, ah, the poor guy, I'm sure he needed a change of pants. Yeah. Like, man, I would have. Like,
that was like you said, you can't train a cat to do that. It's like, okay, when I say this, jump out, you know, and it's like, no, this guy had the big one. Oh my gosh.
Our teacher had like a ton of stories that he had, because he goes to Gettysburg all the time because he does like live action Civil War reenactments. Like him and like a bunch of other like history buffs, they like all dress up in these uniforms and they live for like weeks on end on just like trying to like capture like the historical like value of like the Battle of Gettysburg.
Don't they have like a band too? Like a
Yeah, they do have a band, actually. They do have a band. Really? And on the, I forget,
it's got to have a cool name. Oh, what's its name? Like Blue and Gray.
I forget the name. I'm so mad that I can't remember
Sunday,
the name
Bloody
of
Sunday.
it.
I don't know. Like what?
It was so bad. Well, the thing is, I was stuck in his car for like the carpool down to Gettysburg. So for like I don't even know how long the trip was, but for like 5, 6 hours, like we were forced to listen to this guy's band where they just like kept playing like old like Civil War tunes, and I'm just like sitting here just like listening to this, and I'm like, geez, like can this like,
To be
like how could this get any
here's my piccolo riff.
Yeah, no, right, exactly. Well, like there's like
When
some
Johnny
point
comes marching
Guys, this is the
home.
best part.
it was like a banjo. There was like a banjo solo with a harmonica. It was so random. And I'm like looking over at like my other friends who are also in this car. They're like, "Are you guys getting this?" And, like it was so weird. Yeah, but like he has like a couple stories. Like he one time he was telling us that he was like driving with a friend, and it was like really foggy during that night, and he like was going around a curve, and then all of a sudden he like saw a man on a horse just like standing out in the middle of the road, and he like immediately slammed on his brakes, and then like kind of like he slammed on his brake, like went to a complete stop, thought thinking they were going to hit this horse and this guy, but when they look up, like the horse and the man were like nowhere to be found. There's like a couple other stories that he has, but I could completely forget. I wish there was a way for me to talk to him. It was pretty scary there, to be honest.
Yeah, Gettysburg is cool. I mean, just the history and all those things. I mean, I've seen haunting shows where they have videos and clips and stuff of people experiencing things in Gettysburg. I mean, yeah, like Chrissy said, there's just so much there, and so much happened, and so many lives were lost, and it's just. But that's cool. I mean, it's neat that, I mean, how often do you go someplace like that and have an actual experience?
Right, exactly. Because I was always like really like skeptical about it at first. I really didn't think anything was gonna happen. Like I always just thought like everyone says it's like a huge like hotspot, but like for like the area that we're in, I didn't think that like we were gonna get anything. But to the fact that like we had that one encounter, like it kind of shook me up a little bit, and I always like kind of like question that night every now and then. And if I ever like see and yeah, it was a cool moment too. And then yeah, it was really like a nice trip in general, just to understand like the history as well.
Good story.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, but I've always like sometimes I always think about like going back again to like an actual like more like haunted like camp area where there was like a battlefield there, other than like an artillery camp, just to see if like I can get another experience again. And I just always thought it would be cool.
Maybe you and your teacher can hook up. You can take a ride down to one of his reenactments. And
Yeah, I'll
tunes.
I'll definitely try and shoot him a text.
Ask him where
find out what his band is named. Man, it's got to be a good band name.
Crap, I know. I really wish I remembered it.
Where can you purchase that album?
Yeah, right. You know what? I might try and see if I can shoot him an email and see if I can like find out what it was, because it was hilarious hearing some of the tunes as well.
I'm sure he's on Spotify. We'll find him.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, no, they're definitely on Spotify. He told me that they go on tour in the summer as well, and they go like all over the country. And I was like, I can't believe there's venues all over the country that are like paying to see these people.
It's a big deal,
especially because. Yeah, no, seriously. And they go to like they play at like older like taverns and pubs, just to kind of like get more of that like older feel to it, and they all dress up in these costumes that are like historically accurate. Like it's crazy to like think that all these guys are actually real people, They're just very interesting personalities.
Great. Well, thanks, Deuce. Thanks for coming on. Good luck at the rest of your school year.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. Yeah, it was really fun. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. We got our successful Deuce and Bruce episode. I feel like that's got to be the only thing that we could name this one after that. I guess go ahead and take it away, Mom.
Thank you for listening, and remember to keep that night light on. Good night, sweet dreams.
If you have a story to share, please send it to notyourmothersbedtimestory@gmail.com.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. And please help us grow by following us on your favorite podcast platform, leaving us a positive review, and telling a friend. Thank you for your support.